All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, an MSP live chat. And we've got, for some of you folks out there, some familiar faces. For those who don't know me, I'm Jonathan Crow, Director of Content at Ninja RMM. We've got Tom Watson, who is our Channel Chief Advisor. Welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, an MSP live chat. And it looks like we got some delay on the audio. We'll work on that. But we also have Ray Orsini, who is CEO of OIT VoIP. And Ray, very, very happy to have you here.
Awesome to be back, man. Thanks for inviting me back.
Yeah, and I see the comments. People are loving your background.
Maybe I'll give a quick tour of it at the end of this thing.
That sounds good. I like that. So I'm actually broadcasting from outside a little cabin in Maine. And for those who have joined other things, I've upgraded from my satellite internet to use my phone as a hotspot. If there's any audio or video difficulties, just let us know. And then if anyone has a problem on your end, feel free to say things in the chat. Refreshing is always a good thing to try out first. And so without further ado, I wanted to share my screen because I've got an agenda doc that's going to help guide us through this session today. Here we go. All right, sales prospecting without in-person events. So I'm going to share this doc with everybody right now. Let me know if you can't get to it. And really, we're going to use this agenda doc to kind of guide through. You can use it, dive in, go ahead, and you can skip ahead if you want. So this is going to keep us on track. It's also going to be our resource for all the great prospecting ideas that we're going to generate together. So I'm going to dump them all in this doc, and then you'll be able to have this doc afterwards as a place to go to and check back all the good ideas we come up with. It's also going to be where I add a link to the recording. So we're going to be updating it live, and we'll see how this goes. Yes, everyone's already talking about the $50 gift card. So why don't we talk about how that's going to work? First of all, for anyone who hasn't used Crowdcast before, this is a platform you'll probably notice it's a lot like Zoom, but there's a few different things that are a little bit unique about it. If you go to your bottom panel there, you'll see there's polls. We also have ask a question. We don't want you to ask questions there, actually. We're going to do something different. We're going to use that not for its intended purpose, but that's where we want everyone to submit their prospecting ideas. So if you saw in your invites, we were really hoping that everybody was going to come to this event and really be an active participant. Feel free to add in your ideas one at a time to the questions and submit them as a question. And what that's going to let us do is upvote. And so if you were around for Ninja RMM hosted a MSP Security Summit about a month ago now. And we tried this out where upvoting comments and questions and giving away prizes. There's some shenanigans there where people are submitting funny comments and those are coming home with a prize. I've decided that I'm not going to be policing this. It's up to you guys. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to upvote, whether it's a serious idea that you think is really good and you want that person to win, you can do that way. Or if you want to make it a funny answer and we want that to win too. I wash my hands of this. This is completely up to you. But that's
Famous
where
last words, man.
So yeah, so we'll see. So feel free, starting now, if you came to this, if you have a prospecting idea that's one that you've tried out, or it's something that you just think is a good idea that you haven't put to practice yet, go ahead, open up the question and add it as a question that we'll immediately be able to see them and start upvoting.
Yeah, guys, really important. Those of you, especially if you participated in the last round, we want to make this interactive. This is not a talking heads, listen for an hour kind of thing. Turn off the Netflix, turn off the TikTok. Let's get interactive with this. If you have an active deal or something, just an idea you're spitballing in your head, let's do it live. Let's figure it out. See if it's a good way. See if it's a good idea. We can't make it more, make it better together. So, we definitely want to hear from you guys, including video, right? We're going to be able to bring
That's
them.
right.
Yeah, man.
That's right. We're going to pick. So anyone, you have to be a willing participant at first. Of course, but we can bring you on. If you have a good idea and we think it's cool and we want to talk about it, we want to have you on and have you talk about it. Also, to that point, if you have a question for Ray or for Tom or for me, and you want to talk about it on video, we can bring you on too. I see. So Joe Sellers, you added membership in Business Network International. Of course, that's a solid idea. You've added it in the comments. I'm just going to post this as a question. So that way you're going to be in the running for for the contest. So remember, guys, if you have the idea that you're posting, put it in ask a question. Don't just drop it in the comments. And that way you'll be up for that $50 Amazon gift card.
Yeah, we can extend that to, any business memberships, right? Local chambers or trade groups, that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, I know you have experience when actually, Tom, for those who don't know you, you can give a little background too.
Tom Watson, and I'm a former MSP owner, owned an MSP for over 15 years in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And then I took a few years off, and then I've been on the vendor side for a few years where I've been involved with previously Axient and now Ninja, helping create content that I think MSPs will find valuable to help you further your business along. And so I really enjoy, I think Jonathan and I have done, 5 or 6 of these now, and get a lot out of them. I really get a lot of feedback from you guys that helps me, and you're always welcome to reach out to me as well if you want to talk strategy. Find valuable to help you further your business along.
A little bit echo there again, but
sorry, that was me. I apologize.
Oh, no worries, Ray. So I'm going to make, I see we launched a poll to get a sense of kind of like who all is on the line, and we get a lot of folks being all of the above on those roles. Totally makes sense. If you get a chance now, actually is a good time to drop into that polls too. Check all those out. Feel free to answer those. Those are going to help us guide some conversation too. As we're asking these, I mean, I thought this would be interesting to ask Ray this question too, or a bunch of these questions, just to get a sense of kind of like where, before we get into all these sales prospecting ideas, where are folks coming from in terms of, do you have a dedicated salesperson? What's sales activity like? I mean, guys, both Ray and then Tom too. I mean, it's one of the things we've heard for a while now, and it feels like it's starting to change immediately when COVID was really going immediately off the rails in March, and then April. It seems like the sentiment was, guys, not the time to be doing cold calls, not the time to be doing selling. Like, a lot of people are hurting, freaked out. Everybody should pull back and just concentrate on being helpful. And it feels like, it's summertime, things are starting to open up depending on where you are. It seems like things are starting to switch a little bit. I'm just kind of curious, like, is that something that you guys have talked about? Ray, I mean, what are you thinking about on your end?
So I will go the absolute opposite, and I'm going to invite Sean on as well. Sean's my VP of Partner Development. Most of you guys have met him already, but he handles my sales. He spearheads that department. But I will say, the COVID times, especially when people started working from home, that's absolutely the right time to start selling. It's not the time to be greedy. It's not the time to be, checking for blood in the water. Absolutely not. In my opinion, all sales should be coming from a place of, you have a solution for a need the customer has. And without question, those who were fortunate enough to keep working throughout COVID, they needed to find ways to do so remotely. Not every company has a good MSP. Not every company has anybody short of their cousin that watched a few YouTube videos that can do MSP. So, and even if they did have an MSP, sometimes those MSPs focus so much on getting the business running in the office, they didn't have the ideas for the remote solutions. So there's space to come in and help out there too. I'm not saying blood in the water. I'm not saying, go for the kill. I'm saying cold calling absolutely should have been done during the COVID. We're still in the COVID times, but during those, times when people are going from home, now that people are trying to come back, and the tide is kind of leveling out a little bit. Let's see if that stays. There's been talks of working back, sending people back to work from home. People are more gun shy about what's next. And so they realize the need for, if they weren't able to address the remote working in the very beginning, it's definitely on their minds now. So those calls need to be done. They should have never stopped, but they need to be done now. And I would absolutely love to hear from Sean as well. Sean's actually the one that's been doing these calls and talking to these people and helping the MSPs do this. So whenever you can bring him on, I'd love to hear him. Tom, do you have any your input on this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said in some of the previous MSP live chats that I see opportunity with what's going on. And in particular, I think Ray touched on this. This is the time for MSPs to shine. If companies didn't see the value of your services, they certainly do now if you were doing your job. And it's time to leverage that. And I think that's what Ray was pointing to in there. And we want to make sure, in particular, if I had an MSP right now, I would be documenting these wins. I would be documenting these processes I used, and I would be using those to further my sales process and to show prospects what I can do for you, maybe what wasn't done for your company during this, what's happened, and then leverage that for future sales.
And Sean, while you jump into that, I also want you to talk about, if you don't mind, Jamie and Kristen were asking about cold calling best practices, because every MSP I know is terrified to pick up the phone and call. It sucks to do that in the best of times. COVID's even worse. It's uncomfortable. So not just how we were addressing it, but actual tips on how to do those cold calling.
Absolutely. Calvin just said it exactly. Pick up the damn phone. That's definitely dead on. So one thing is, our approach has been very simple. Everybody is, when we work with tons of partners, they work with tons of end users of all types, whether they're working in schools as teachers or offices, attorneys, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're all looking for a solution. So I don't know that I call it a cold call anymore when everybody's very aware of this current situation in general. So while we went at this, it was a very simple approach. It was basically like, hey guys, we know you need help. We know you're looking for answers. And really for MSPs, you guys are on the front end of this, because now working from anywhere is so required. Remote access anywhere. You guys run the cloud. So when we're calling through and we're teaching our MSP partners this, first off, let people know who you are, what you do. Have a conversation, build a relationship. I don't ever go into anything trying to sell anything first. I first want to even know who the person is and understand that we even like each other to at least some degree, and then hear what their problems are and talk about, how we can provide a solution. Because even if I can't provide a solution, I know other people like you guys that can. I can always make introductions. But you definitely
the conversation, right? Just have that conversation going.
Absolutely. And another good tactic though, and there should be a process, right? When we build our processes out, we build out our partners, we talk strategy and tactical. Okay, and that all leads to your approach. Strategy is very simple. You should organize your existing resources. Your existing resources being, let me figure out who my friends are that work with me as clients, that can bring me into certain spaces, that can introduce me to other people that can use my help. That becomes less of a cold call, by the way. And I'm sure that I know most of my MSPs, a lot of their business is referral based anyway. So, take a look at that and then start reaching out to them and saying, hey, is there anybody you can introduce me to that I can start talking to and provide the same service I helped you guys with all along the course of this? And, two things occur here. One is your client looks really good when he refers you over and helps his friend. And I'm sure he asks him for a favor later. Two, it's a nice, warm introduction. It takes away a lot of stuff. Now, on your end, though, you can't just ask for introductions and not have some sort of game plan. You got to have a talk track you're going to go through, and it has to make sense and be doable. The nice thing about if you have some of your refer, you can just talk about your experience with them and how you helped them. That helps you right off the bat.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I think we could dive into. There's almost like two tracks here, and like one of them is what should you be saying? We see the advice here, just pick up the damn phone, and people's kind of response is, okay, well, what do I say? And that's a whole nother thing, right? That's getting into talking about your pitch or how you get that conversation going. And Sean, you're kind of getting into that a bit. And then there's also the level of like before that, how you build up the list. And so I think originally when we had put this event together, we were thinking, okay, that's where we want to focus on is list building ideas. You got a prospect, you got to get those leads somehow, especially when people, I think for a lot of folks, it was kind of like, well, there's the networking events like BNI. And then there's also other events that they go to, casual networking stuff. And those, maybe they're an option right now, depending on where you are, or maybe it's different. I'm just kind of curious to get some thoughts on that. If anyone in the chat, who's involved in business networking groups right now, what's it been like now in the moment? Like, are these meetings still happening? It's only virtual. What are the changes there?
And that's another idea for perfect opportunity, right? Todd Moss in the chat was saying, quoting Kevin O'Leary, saying, if you want to make money, you have to solve a problem for someone. These networking groups don't didn't stop because COVID happened, you know, but they make their money off participation and meetings. So you find these groups that, you know, were traditionally, and most of them were traditionally in-person meetings, and you can be the one to come in and say, bring the idea to say, why aren't we doing this virtually? Why aren't we keeping the momentum going? Let's not lose steam. Let's not lose the communication, the conversation, the opportunities for networking and revenue generation. If you can bring those ideas, you're the problem solver. Who do you think they're going to look to when things normalize? Be in the right place at the right time. But to do that, you got to put yourself out there.
Sean, you actually just brought up something great, social media groups too.
Yes.
And so do you have any specific ones that you're involved with or suggestions at all? Absolutely.
Everybody on here knows who Ray is, obviously, because he's all over Reddit, which Reddit is not my strength, by the way. So what was my strength always was LinkedIn and then Facebook. By the way, I never used Facebook for really prospecting prior to actually working within the VoIP space. But LinkedIn I did because I worked within corporations for years, and that was a great place to really fish. So once I came over to doing this, I became very active on Facebook, and I joined a couple MSP groups. And actually, thanks Lisa for putting that out there. I really appreciate that. The IT and MSP owners group, business owner group, which is Chris Weiser's group. I also joined up with Everything MSP, all things MSP. So, in my target audience is MSPs. You know, I did it for a couple reasons. One is I can't go see anybody right now. Two, I'm able to actually sit down and learn from the MSPs and hear what they're saying and hear their struggles, because that way I can start to see if I can help them with the solution. Three, I'm actually making friendships. I'm building relationships. They might not work with me today, but they're going to see me enough, and and I've said this on our calls there. I stalk them. I look up their stuff. So back to your cold calling piece, I know a lot of things about people before I even call them or call on them. I know they're an MSP. I know that in our case, we provide VoIP. I look and I say, oh, they don't even have VoIP on their website. So maybe they could use that as another line of revenue. So let's talk to them about it. Or I look at who they're using so I can know that I have a competitive advantage or I don't, and how to speak to it. So yeah, I am on there. I'm on a meeting every single day with groups that I'm just part of their circle now, and I'm not even an MSP.
And that touches on something that was brought up in the chat too. You know, they were asking, how do you get past the gatekeeper? How do you get to the decision maker? Well, do your damn homework. You know, find them on LinkedIn, find them on their, you know, the trade websites, find them on Facebook or wherever they happen to be. You shouldn't, when you call somebody, you should know who you're calling. You don't just pick up your phone and hit a number on speed dial, although that sounds like a good drinking game. But, you know, normally if you're doing cold calling, prospecting, you need to know who you're calling. So you need to know who might answer. You need to, you know, if you can find an employee list on LinkedIn, that'd be fantastic. You can find their about pages, find whatever social postings they're doing. You should be hunting, not casting a net. You should be hunting, which means you should know who you're talking to when they answer. You should know who you should ask for, you know.
And actually, I saw something you mentioned about gatekeepers earlier. Vital importance to practice your speak. So when the gatekeeper calls, you make them your friend. You got to be nice. You're about to ask them for a favor, realistically. You're also going to ask them to be your champion. Ultimately, if they like you enough, they will refer you. Again, that becomes a warm reference to the owner. So it's extremely important that you actually start to have those conversations with them. And one last bit of this is, if you don't have time to do this yourselves, then you should think about hiring somebody to do it.
Yeah, I mean, to that end, let's say if someone's just not in that position right now, any other advice for, you know, you guys have mentioned getting the intel on people, having something to say, getting some knowledge about some of your targets right away. Any specific suggestions on that? Especially for someone who maybe like doesn't have the bandwidth to hire someone right now, just wants to can dip in a little bit of time a day into it.
So I'll say on the MSP side, you know, I'm always a proponent. I talked last time, and I'll say this till the day I die. Be specific about the clients you go after. Don't just go after anybody with a front door. You know, if the clients I would like to go after would be clients that are actively posting on social, the clients who have a presence in multiple arenas. Why? Because it means they're active. If they're active about talking about their business, they're active about talking to other colleagues in the space, they're active in selling and marketing. They're probably doing well. The companies that are not doing well are the ones that are quiet mouses in the corner. I mean, I'm not saying you can't be a quiet mouse in the corner and not do awesome, but it's easier to identify the ones that are out there talking. So if they're out there talking, they're easier to do homework on. I love Seamless AI. That gives you fantastic information. What's the library one? I've never used it, but the library one, Reference USA, I think, is it?
Yeah.
If you have a library card, you can use it. The information's out there. I mean, how many articles have you heard talking about, you lose your privacy the minute you turn on a cell phone? Well, that cuts both ways. If you're doing market research, get out there and do it. And I get hiring somebody can be expensive. You can outsource virtual assistants for the research part of it at $3 or $4 an hour, that are good English speakers that are experienced in doing this, so that when you get on the phone or you do that prospecting, you're dedicating the best use of your time. Tom, Sean, do you have any other feedback there?
So I'm sorry, I want to interrupt here. You see him chatting with Doug Pettigrew right now. He's a great example of getting on Facebook groups and then bringing them into your business, because Doug is on our group and he became one of our partners just recently. Didn't know him from anything until I joined the group and we started having conversations.
Yeah, my perspective is, in my early days as an MSP owner, I found that I didn't manage my time well when it came to networking and what I was going after. And I might do a little BNI, but not focus too deep in it. Or I go to Chamber of Commerce, but not get too deep. And what I found worked well is, once I decided, okay, I'm going to focus on BNI and I'm going to focus on the chamber. And I'm going to get involved in leadership in both different groups and really put my time into them. Because what I think happens to a lot of MSPs is that they're dipping into a lot of different areas, but never enough to really get that focus or get noticed or have enough touches. And so I would say, if you're going to do BNI, really dedicate yourself. And then when I put it in the chat already, when I had success with BNI was once I hired a salesperson, and a part of their job description was, you have to attend BNI every week and you need to do everything they ask you to do in terms of all the one-to-ones and that kind of thing. And then I made the decision that I was going to be the guy in the company that did all of the chamber stuff. And I got involved in several different committees in the chamber. And so people saw me a lot more. So I would say, rather than try to divide yourself too thin, really focus on just a couple things and dig deep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it keeps getting said over and over in the chat, and I'm going to reiterate it on for those that are just listening in. Kindness, niceness, it goes a long way. It's like what I was saying when we were talking about doing cold calls when this COVID stuff happened. Don't go in there as a shark. Go in there as someone that earnestly wants to help. If you don't want to help, that you're in there just for the money, yeah, there's a place for that, but I can't speak to that. That's never been my style. Sean talked about making the gatekeeper your champion, making that typically who answers the phone is the person whose problems you're going to be solving. That's the person who can tell you their pain points, right? You want to hear from them. You want to get to know them. Spend a few minutes on them. Don't rush so quickly to get to the decision maker. You want somebody to talk you up, because you don't want the gatekeeper saying, "Hey, I got Tom on the phone, and they want to talk to you about MSP." You want the gatekeeper saying, that problem we've been having with the internet? I just talked to Tom for 10 minutes, and Tom says he knows exactly what's going on. Can we have him come in and talk to us and see what ideas he can give us? I mean, it's a different delivery. Use it.
Great. That's a great point. I think my focus wasn't really, when I got kind of soft leads, was not on getting to the decision maker, the owner. It was getting to the person who calls IT. Often the office manager, someone at the front desk, something like that. I'd rather talk to them, because they're the ones that's interacting. They often have a lot of influence on that decision. And if I make them my friend and I can solve their problems, as you said, Ray, they're probably going to influence that decision on who becomes the new MSP.
Yeah, absolutely.
So quick thing here. I saw Rachel had asked about having a hard time getting a hold of people on the phone. You're right, especially, and this actually works in our favor when I say this, especially if people have on-premise solutions and don't have the ability to do any kind of call routing and auto attendance. That's our plug. Anyway, VoIP can do that. Second off, but really, it's not just the only thing. It's not the only way you can reach out, though. If you haven't noticed, if you haven't looked at statistics, social media has increased tenfold since this all went down. People are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, freaking TikTok, my goodness. So I guarantee if they have an old archaic phone system, again, another plug, and need VoIP, here we are. But if they don't have that, that's fine. Message them through the LinkedIn. Send a connection, send them a friendly, and don't do the stupid messages that I always get where once I accept, thanks for connecting me. Did you know that I could save you 15% on car insurance? No, don't do that. How about, hey, it's just, I still have some things in common, takes research. I'm in your area and I have we have mutual friends. So I just want to say I'm here if there's anything I can ever do, especially these are crazy times, so we're here to help. If there's anything you could ever need, by all means. And I'd like to be able to look at you as a person, an acquaintance of mine. Something simple like that. That goes a long way and it starts the conversation.
And maybe this is, those are great points. And maybe this is a good time too to see if Lisa is ready, if she wants to come on, because she was mentioning success in that area. But I'm curious for you guys while we wait to hear back from Lisa. What's your opinion about using LinkedIn, doing it manually versus trying to find ways? I mean, there's a lot of tools out there that can help you automate this kind of stuff. Like in the agenda down towards the bottom here, I have shared, if you go under the prospecting ideas, we've got a heading called the basics. And it's saying, okay, if you got LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can use a tool like Duck Soup to automate invites and emails. And there's a video actually that links to from Chartech that kind of walks you through that process. But I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I know that some people are kind of hear automation and LinkedIn. They're like, oh, that's just not going to work. You got to stick to doing something manual.
I'll let Sean talk because he was the one that brought up LinkedIn Navigator and those, and because there's like 5 or 6 different options for LinkedIn, and 4 of them sound like they do the exact same thing.
No, not yes, you're right, Ray. There's about 27 of them now. No, LinkedIn is a great tool. Navigator is a great tool. Dealing with the premium, I don't even have Navigator. I use Premium. It really depends on. You have to do what's comfortable for you guys first. Tom actually said when he took the reins and decided he was going to do it, it was based off he was in his own comfort zone. You have to be uncomfortable to have progress. We all know that. I mean, that was why you guys all started businesses in the first place. But I don't use Navigator. Some people do use it to get on and automate things, but that takes away the personalization aspect. Again, if you're doing research, you can't just bulk message everybody. It doesn't work that way. So I don't use it for that purpose, any automation tools. I actually want to create a genuine connection. And also with the genuine connection, it goes a long way in some degrees. Now, if you don't have time and you can't discipline yourself to do it, then that's better than nothing to automate.
Yeah, and I think Lisa will say the same thing. And it's funny because, Lisa, obviously legendary, with the Chris Weiser group, she knows what she's doing. But any marketing person you're going to talk to is going to say the same thing. Just do something. Don't worry about perfection. Your processes, Sean, how many times have we changed our processes since you came on a year ago? 1,000 times?
Yeah, yes.
You have over a decade of experience. I have decades of experience. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's change. You evolve.
At least do something first. Make it simple. Make it rudimentary at first. So best advice I can give anybody here is build a simple process first of just what you're going to do. Okay, pick your times of the day and block it off on your calendar and don't let anybody disturb you and go do it. Whatever it is. Once you start doing it and you start working on it, you'll start to work on your speak, you'll work on your process, you'll start to get an idea of what's working and what's not working, and you can tweak as you go.
That's great,
Sean. I think with that, Lisa's...
Honestly, we're ready to have Lisa come on.
All right, so Sean, thank you so much, and we'll pull you back on. But in the meantime,
you won't want to. Lisa's an upgrade, so you're good.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean. Goodbye to you, sir. Lisa, I'm going to invite you on. Thank you for letting us put you on the spot, not knowing this is going to be your screen time. All right. Invite is sent. And then while we're waiting for Lisa to come on too, I wanted to. I think this is great. Let's talk to Lisa. And then after that, we're about halfway through. I want to make sure we go through the ideas that have been listed. We've got a few on the agenda, but we've also got some good ones coming into the questions too.
Yeah, and I don't think we can let Lisa off before she mentioned something in chat. But I don't think we can let her off the video until she talks about it. That process. I mean, we talked about the very first thing that Sean came in, and I'm guilty of this. I mean, I've been doing sales forever, and I didn't have a written process. And I'm the guy that talks about documentation and procedures. And I have thousands of other documents. I didn't have a written sales process. And that was literally the first thing he brought in when he came in. I love the hair, by the way, Lisa. It looks awesome.
Oh, thanks. I'm just trying to match your background, Ray.
Well done.
That is awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. So, yeah, we actually hone very big on the actual sales process. So you've got to have a process in place that's there, because if you don't, you're never going to be able to scale with that. So that's really important. And we teach that a lot, because the matter of the fact with the most MSPs that I speak with today is I could hand them the perfect qualified lead and they will still turn it upside down because they have a lack of process. And then in regards to this, the link to the Sales Navigator piece that Sean was talking about, Chris Weiser actually has his very own course on that called Linked Academy to teach you how to properly and effectively use the Sales Navigator tool to specifically work for you, so it's not looking like a canned message.
Yeah, we just had a question, Lisa, for we've been saying all these nice things about you, but you should introduce yourself a bit, I guess, too.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Lisa Compton. I work for Chris Weiser over at the Weiser Agency and Seven Figure MSP. I've been in the channel for about 7 years now. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. I've been actually in the voice over IP space for a majority of my time in the channel, working with a lot of MSPs, VARs, and other IT-based companies to get those things, well, get the VoIP piece as part of their stack, and help them, what you guys were talking about, using that gatekeeper. They love VoIP people because they're on the phones the most out of anybody in that office. So if you can find one or even two pain points from that gatekeeper, then you have a friend. And they're like, yep, you need to talk to the CEO, not our IT manager. And then you have your foot in the door.
Lisa, do you have any other recommendations about, we keep hearing be friendly, be personable, like be a human being, basically, combining that with the reality that, especially for people who don't have a dedicated salesperson, they only have so much time to do this. It's a small chunk. They want to hit as many people as possible. Do you have any recommendations for being able to do that and maintain that level of like, I'm targeted, I'm speaking just to you, I'm a human being?
Yeah, I always tell people, we focus a lot on the digital marketing piece. So a lot of video, a lot of webinars like this, and we tell them to stay positive and don't sit rigid behind your desk because nobody's going to watch that. Do something fun and make it personable, because you want the people who are watching your videos to feel like they know you and they can relate with you. That's the reason to be on video. And then you have their full attention. And when they feel like they know you personally, they're more prone to reach out to you because they know that you can help.
Going to video, it's something that keeps on coming up more and more, not just events like this, but we had an event a while ago now where we had a Ninja partner come on and talk about, kind of show off his own video setup that he had made. And he's using that to do, the quick kind of like how-to videos that he's posting on YouTube, but also using that for some testimonial stuff too. Going back to what Tom was recommending, it seems like there's such a good opportunity if you can grab good testimonial stuff and have it in a way where you can share it. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, just curious, Lisa, stay on for a little bit because I want to pull up the questions we have now.
Okay.
And right now, so reminder. So if you go over everybody to ask a question, you can see who's in the lead to win the $50 gift card. And it's Joe from the get-go, the very first one, Membership and Business Networking International. If you think you have a better idea than that, or you think you just have another good idea, feel free to enter that in and do some upvoting here. You see, in addition to that, we've got using Straighten for LinkedIn prospecting. Daniel, might be cool to hear from you on that. Lisa, are you familiar with Straighten? Or any other? Yeah, if you go to ask a question, you should be able to see.
Oh, okay. Look here.
Yeah, straight. And maybe Daniel, in the comments, if you could add in a link or any kind of other information, that would be cool, just to see what you're talking about there. So we see link.
I have not heard from about Straight In, but I am familiar with duck soup, which you were talking about earlier.
Okay.
And that's something we've definitely used internally. I'll have to do some research on the Straight In, but the duck soup seems to work very well.
It does. Yeah. Could you talk about that a little bit? Again, for everybody, I included in the agenda doc, you'll see a section where there's a video that kind of explains. Thanks again, Ray, for being the hero and showing that. But it shows, it's a video from Chartech, and they walk through how to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator plus Duck Soup to do it. Basically, I mean, Lisa, you can talk to this better than I can, but it looks like it automates your in-mails and invites. So you can basically have a huge list and send all this stuff out.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly how we use it. So exactly how you explained it. And earlier I heard you guys talking about virtual assistants. Internally, we use our virtual assistants to accomplish those tasks, because the name of the game is really to master the strategy so you can delegate the execution as an MSP owner. So the more process you have behind those things, the easier and easier it becomes for you to delegate those tasks off with the confidence that they're still going to be completed and you are going to see the ROI from them.
And this is the, what I'm showing you, this is the link that Daniel put up for Straight In. This is new to me too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see there's probably a lot of these, and Daniel, I mean, it'd be great to know if you have any specific, just kind of, if you want to talk about your experience with it and how it's done. I mean, I see the pricing there per month. Seems pretty
reasonable.
I mean, compared to Duck's, I think Duck Soup, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but I think it's $12 a month, or I mean, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's pretty cost effective on the Duck Soup. Yeah, I would have to look and see if that's like based on a number of users. Or
it
what
probably is.
Like, yeah.
Although we have a comment from Brian, they all used to get shut down, so maybe that's something to look into. Lisa, has that been your experience at all? Have they had any issues?
No, we haven't been having any issues with it. I mean, we do a lot on the marketing side. Like I said, we are very forward thinking. We focus a lot on the digital marketing aspect, you know, because like you guys were talking about, in light of coronavirus and working from home, the presence on social media platforms has gone up drastically. So you have more of a presence on there than you actually think. But you have to be consistent on building that up as well, so you can see the hockey stick trajectory of the continued growth. Because the more videos you do, the more traction you're going to get, the more people you're going to reach. And that's how you're going to get into being on Chamber of Commerce virtual calls. And Rotary is also a great area to get involved. I know that sounds kind of funny coming from me. I am the youngest person in Phoenix Rotary 100 today. I've been a part of the group for about 4.5 years, but it's been great business relationships for me as well. That's
great. Going back to our ideas here, so I'm seeing more on LinkedIn and more on referrals, and then I also see virtual events listed. I'm curious too if anyone in the chat wants to chime in as well. I mean, any other ideas for virtual events? Because this is something, obviously we're doing this here at Ninja. We've done a variety of things, and what we're seeing is, man, there are no lack of virtual events now. Like, everyone's had to pivot to it. Everyone's doing it. All of your inboxes are probably full of this thing. I mean, I think I had one like every day this week from various vendors and things, organizations. So really trying to stand out or have a creative idea. I'm kind of interested, like, if anyone's seen some ones that thought were especially good to kind of help break through the noise there.
So I'll be shameless about this. And hopefully this is what Jonathan was leading to. We are having And I realize we're so tired of Zoom. We're so tired of Teams meetings. We're so tired of webinars. I say and that's why we call this a discussion. Like Jonathan, Tom, and I, and Sammy, we're very clear. We didn't want to call this a webinar because that's not what this is. It's an interactive discussion, right? Where you can grab Lisa or whoever else and pull them in. Because we're tired of the mundane. And so, but we're also dying for that conference networking. Everybody keeps asking, when's the next thing? When are we going to be able to sit there and network and have those hallway conversations, right? Been dying for that. So as in all things, we found a need and figured we could make a solution. We are going to host our very first conference. It will be a virtual conference at the end of July. But the goals for our conference, our Cloud Connection Summit, are very simple. We need to have all the tenets, all the takeaways you have from being at an in-person conference, meaning I need to have those hallway conversations. I need to have that private time. I need to have the one-on-one. I need to have the breakout sessions. I need to have the one-on-one sessions with the event sponsors or the booth exhibitors. And we, thankfully, due to some awesome innovation from a company called InEvent, we're able to do exactly that. So I'll put in this is the very first time we're announcing it, by the way, publicly. Those of our partners have heard about it. This is open to everybody, not just MSPs, not just telcos, VARs, not just OIT VoIP partners. This is open to everybody. And it is free because the vendors are paying for everything. And there's going to be tons of takeaways and giveaways. And I'm trying to see if Kelvin will do a session for me, with me on API and automation with PowerShell. But, the goal is be different. Find a need, build a solution, put it out there, promote it out there. So this is what we're doing. I didn't want to steal time from Lisa or anybody else, but the goal is to be different than what everybody else is doing. And I'll share this registration link in the webinar. And if you have ideas on what you want to see, on what you want to do to participate or what you want to see out of the conference, let me know. It's completely partner driven. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one.
Well, thanks for that, Ray. And Lisa, thank you so much for coming on. If you don't mind, I'm going to kick you off for a second. We can bring you back on if you want. Okay, thank you so much for coming on. This is great.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. And bring back up the agenda because there's a few ideas that we put together. I'll make that the focus screen. You can see my lag there. Okay, here we go. There's a few ideas that we put together in advance of this we wanted to share with you. And there's the first four come from Kevin Clune. Now, Kevin is the co-founder of MSP Growth Hacks. We had him on a couple of MSP live sessions ago to talk about sales and marketing. He's actually going to be on for the next one too. That's going to be all about nurturing. So this session is all about getting your leads. The next one's going to be about how do you nurture and convert leads better. So Kevin's going to join us for that, but he has a blog post that I'll pull up. I actually already had it up here. And this kind of came from a conversation I was having with him about this session. And he pointed out, you could be sitting on a bunch of leads already. Like he refers to it as check the couch cushions. So basically, like, depending on what you're using, and we have a poll about your who else using a CRM and how organized you are about everything, you could find that, like, for example, what about past form completions on your website? If you have a get in touch with us, request a quote and all that, like, how synced up is all that data? You may have some old entries in there that you haven't followed up on within a while. Check your inbox for the same thing. And then he goes through a couple of other examples, like appointment setting systems, Calendly. Like, if you have something like that, I know Ray does. So check it out. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the way you're capturing emails, right?
Yeah.
Are these people
have some way of tracking it without question? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm curious if this is something that, like, you've thought about too, Ray, or what you think about that idea.
Yeah, I mean, do something. I used my matrix before, what we're using now. Today we use Pardot and Salesforce, but I use my matrix and ConnectWise. But it was all about the same thing. You have to have a repository for data. It doesn't matter if you're using HubSpot or Active Contact or Constant Contact or Active Campaign. You have to have something. You have to have, your website should have a call to action, should have some way of information gathering. You want to know who you're talking to. It's not to be spammy. It's not to be anything else, but you know, how many times, look at the converse, right? How many times have you called your ISP, let's say one that rhymes with Omcast, you know, and you talk to the first person, you give them your problem, they pass you to the second person, you have to go all over again and give them your problem. They pass you to the third person, you have to go all over again and give them a problem. How frustrating is that? Versus, it's like what, you know, Sean and Lisa and we were talking about in the beginning of doing your homework. Well, that includes keeping track of the contacts you've had with them. Put it in your CRM. You know, have some history. You know, internally in our company, we have our 8 core values. Communication's one of them, where everyone knows everything. It's because whether you talk to me or Sean or somebody from the finance team or tech team or even the marketing team, we know who you are. We know our history with you. We know what's important to you, and we know what's going on in recent events. And that should be bare minimum for anybody, especially when you're prospecting and marketing. That should be bare minimum. But for general day-to-day customer interactions, you should know it too. For those of you one man or one woman, one person shops or 2-person shops, that's very, very simple. But if you're ever going to scale, how are you going to do it? OneNote, Excel, that's not going to keep up. You need to have some kind of CRM. HubSpot's free for a certain amount of contacts and a limited amount of features, but it works. You know, there's a ton of options out there. I'm not going to say you have to use this, but use something, some central repository.
You know, Ray, there's we got about a little over 10 minutes left. I want to check back in on, I just want to take a peek and see if we've changed. Oh, no, Joe, you're still in the lead for the your idea about just pointing out Business Networking International is a great source of leads. But I've got one I want to share with you guys and get your feedback on it. I didn't put this in there because I didn't want to, you know, oh, I won the $50, ha ha ha. So this is under surveys. I wonder if anyone's tried this before. Like, this goes into the area of this isn't going to help you necessarily. You're going to have to use LinkedIn to get the names, but in your outreach, rather than like going back to Sean's point, to Ray's point, not going straight for a hard sell, but as a way of introduction, of course, you can do something more simple and just say, you know, we have a similar connection, or do something that's a little bit more straightforward. This is a little bit roundabout, but what if you propose that you're putting together some research or a survey, basically, local law firms I use as an example, whatever it's going to be, you're trying to find out, get a sense of everybody. How's everyone doing right now? How is the work from home transition? Are people opening offices back up? And then what you do is give them an incentive. You can try that out in terms of getting them to complete a survey. You could offer money if you want to, or you could just keep it simple and just say, hey, we'll make sure that you get the results. And that way you're going to see what's going on with your peers. Just as another way to kind of like go into that thing of we're not just trying to sell something to you. We're invested in this the problem right now. We're invested in tech. We're trying to figure out where's everybody at right now. And we're trying to have a conversation about it. The types of questions you could have on that could, of course, get into something specific. Like you could be asking questions about current satisfaction with their IT. You could be uncovering pain points. And if you get people to fill out those surveys, I mean, that's a warm lead right there. And you can also see what their answers are. You can get a ton of valuable information about what these people care about, what their priorities are, et cetera. So just kind of curious, I mean, if Tom or Ray, if you think that's trying too hard, if you think that's a decent idea for people in the chat too, I mean, feel free to call me out.
No, I think it's super important. You know, for those of you that weren't doing sales and, you know, prospecting, cold calling during the pre-COVID event, please, I hope you guys were doing account management. You know, that was the one thing that I learned after I started doing drip campaigns, even to existing clients, is that I was failing significantly in maintaining the conversations with those clients. Surveys are the easiest way to do it. I mean, don't make it untenable. Don't go crazy. You know, I think once every 6 months is more than enough. You know, but the clients, you know, at minimum, there's certain clients that are going to feel that what they care about that's important to them is important to you because you're asking, you're having the conversation. I'm a firm believer now in solid account management. Now that I've learned the error of my ways, you know, yeah, we definitely pick up the phone once a quarter with clients and how you doing? You know, just wanted to touch base, blah, blah. Now we have dedicated people for that, you know, Sean's team manages that. That's Matt's job to do the account management. But it's super important, you know, because if not, you're going to lose touch with them. There's always somebody else knocking on that door trying to sell them services. If you're not having constant conversations with them, they're going to look elsewhere eventually. Something's going to sound good. Versus our MSP clients, when they get MSPs that knock on the door and say, hey, look, or VoIP, we have the same thing. You know, they knock on the door and say, hey, look, you know, I'm Bob selling from Bob's IT. Our clients actually send them to talk to us because, you know, just in case there's something we can work with them, but we don't have to worry about competition from that end. If you're not talking to your clients, somebody else will. Tom, do you have any insight on that?
Well, I'd actually like to go back and touch on Kevin Clune's points and about the seat cushions. And the way I kind of view it is this. You probably have web forms that were filled out. You might have had emails where someone mentioned they knew someone that could use your services, notes from a previous conversation, things that never made it into a CRM. You might have business cards from networking events. And I'll tell you, any one of those things is better than a cold lead. I would have personally no problem if I found a business card that was 2 years old from a networking event that had a little note on it about a conversation I had with someone. I'd have no problem picking up the phone and saying, hey, listen, I know it's been a long time, but I ran across this card. And you know what? I remember the conversation. And I wanted to tell you what we're doing business-wise now and how I might be able to help your business. Because those leads are one step forward from just a totally cold lead. So go for it. Pull those old things out. Dig into those seat cushions and call everyone up you can. Put them in your CRM and track those touches and make sure you touch those people a few times. And I'm pretty certain most people out there will get a few deals out of that kind of thing.
It kind of goes back to a point that's come up in a broad way throughout this whole session, which is make use of what you have now versus chasing the latest shiny thing, right? So whether that's going back through, looking through your own systems, looking for those leads that are existing that you've been neglecting or you forgot about, or whether it's to Ray's point about going back to your own accounts, working upsells and working referrals versus doing the cold thing. Because I think you're right, Tom. I mean, getting some fresh blood in there is obviously key. But right now, and for anyone who has limited amount of time, I mean, you're probably going to get the most bang for your buck if you're working the stuff that you already have.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on something Lisa and Sean brought up in the chat. You know, Lisa mentioned the age-old trick, and it seems obvious once you do it, but take notes and put them on the back of business cards when you meet people, because I promise you meet 1,500, 2,000 people at a conference, you're going to forget who that person was with the black and gold card, you know, a week from now. Something I like, what was that?
Then take a picture of it.
That's the other thing I was going to say. So I actually take that a step further. When we worked the booth for the trainer troop stuff and the conferences we go to, I actually asked the person if we could take a picture with them so we can post it to social.
Yeah.
And that gives me a picture with the person that I can remember later, because I have a horrible memory when it comes to that stuff. And then they look like that goes in the CRM. What was that, Tom?
Then they already look like they're a client of yours. You're already one step in.
Exactly. And everybody loves to see themselves. You know, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to show that picture on social to their friends. You know, people love to see themselves all over the internet. So it's a win-win. You know, use them.
So what is that? So should we be inviting people on and taking screenshots of our virtual events? You know, now that we're,
so
I mean, it's such a great example, right?
So, you know, so I took, when the four of us were on, and I think when Lisa was on, I took another screenshot. And that my team is going to put that to social, talking about how great a time we were having doing this. Use your time wisely. You know, we talk about squeezing the lemon with your existing clients. We talk about, you know, and not bleeding them dry, but doing extra. What else can we do? You know, we had this conversation on you know, with the Facebook group yesterday with the daily MSP discussion, where with everything MSP, where we talked about, you know, when you sell a computer, you sell monitors. Are you selling the mounting arms? Or are you just going with the stands that come with it? Are you going with the peripherals, the UPS, or the laptop bag? Guys, look at the whole picture. Don't just sell the line item. It's the same thing. If I'm going to put my hour into doing this, I'm going to squeeze every iota of excellence I can out of this. And that includes posting to social. That includes having conversations on chat and Discord and Slack and the other 20,000 places I'm doing. Make the best use of your time. Besides the fact that I love doing this. But if you can find what you love doing, that's a win too, right? Yeah, time is money. Exactly, Lisa. And Corey's repeating it too. Corey, we take screenshots for our Friday afternoon club Zoom meetings. Absolutely. Post, tag your friends, tag your colleagues, put it on social, tag, for the love of God, tag. Sean's always on that. But yeah.
I want to call attention. We have a move. So, Joe, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you've been surpassed by Corey's idea of we maximize LinkedIn by seeing who our current clients are connected to, asking for an intro or point of connection specifically in our target market. So that's a great idea. But let's since we're down to like 5 minutes here, maybe we can hone in on that a little bit, since it's the leading idea. That's a great idea. Any suggestions for specifically how you do that? Do you just come and do you just be as straightforward as possible?
There's nothing that and I love that Corey posted that, because he's one of our near and dear partners. So yay for Corey. But that's, I don't think there's anything bad about, people understand networking, especially small businesses understand networking. There's nothing bad with saying, hey, Sammy, I see you're friends with Bob and at XYZ on LinkedIn. I've been really trying to get into that business. Would you mind making an introduction? There's nothing wrong with that, And again, maybe it's just a function of the clients that I've always gone after. But again, remember how I talked about going after clients that are constantly networking, constantly at trade shows, constantly putting their stuff out on social? Those are the people more inclined to share their networking groups with you. So if you find the right clients, they're going to do the right things for you. And I'd rather spend, time is money, use every ounce of your time. I'd rather spend my time on the people that are going to work for me too. It's this beautiful ecosystem.
Jonathan, I put in the chat some of this, but my thing is to be very specific when asking for leads and referrals. Rather than just saying, do you know someone that could use our services? Ask, do you have any people that are lawyers, that have a firm that's maybe this size? When you start to get specific, you're going to leave the tag in that person's brain of what you're looking for, and they're going to be more likely to be able to find someone for you or think later on what would be a good fit. But getting those specific questions down and have those in advance of that call where you ask for leads, I think is of utmost importance.
Yeah, now too, it seems like going back to the that's good general advice in terms of what we could do now. Like why is the now a specific moment that's important to be doing this stuff? And it seems like you have a golden in with you can tack onto that. Do you know any law firms that have struggled with working this all out, the work from home, getting back up and running, or open that up even further. Do you know any other companies that are struggling right now?
Yeah. Say something like, how we helped you during these times by doing the following. We did this, and how much that helped your business. Do you know anyone that maybe had problems in that same area during these times that maybe we could reach out to and tell them about our experience together and what we did for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when they're marketing or when they're networking with people in their same trade, their vertical or whatever, if you have a good experience, and that's that account management, that's that constant contact, that's that keeping the relationship going. But if they have good experiences with you and they know the space because you've taken the time to learn their business, they are absolutely going to wholeheartedly endorse you to the next person. And how much does that, you need those champions. How much does that help you? Now it's not a cold call. Now it's a warm intro. And it makes it so much easier to close a deal. Brian, I'll answer that at the end.
We were all wondering. Yeah.
Well, we have come down to, we just hit 2:00. So I understand if a lot of people got to jump. We're also happy to stay on for a couple minutes if people have some other questions or things they want to, ideas they want to talk about here. I do want to call attention back to the agenda for a second. I'm going to enlarge that because what I want to call attention to is the fact that, first of all, I'm going to update the agenda with the great ideas that you guys have brought. So we'll have this as a list. I may even make a spreadsheet if that's easier too, if you guys think it's valuable. And then what I'll do is I'll make a spreadsheet that's editable. And then you could just crowdsource it, right? Like if there's more ideas that people have, we can create a spreadsheet that's filling up with ideas people are having. And that's a resource that everybody can share. Then I wanted to call attention to the next chat. So as you noticed with Crowdcast, what's cool about it is this enables us to make this more of kind of an ongoing series. You guys actually don't need to register for multiple events like what we've been doing. You've registered in for the crowd or the MSP live chat series. We'll send you an invite, a calendar reminder for the next one. And if you decide this is not for you, you want to cancel, of course you can unsubscribe. We're not going to keep bothering you if you don't want us to. But the next one is going to be a little while away. And that's because I believe next week is a big conference from ConnectWise, right? And then we've got the holiday. So anyway, long story short, we're looking at the next one being Thursday, July 9th. And again, I mentioned it before, but we're going to have Kevin Clune on. He's going to talk about more ideas for now that you've made those intros, now that you've got those initial leads, how do you keep people warm? How do you move them forward from being just initial prospect to being warm, to being from an MQL to an SQL, if you want to use those terms. So that's coming up. And then I think we'd be remiss if we didn't call out Ray's conference too. Can you remind us, Ray, about what the date is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be July 27th through July 28th through the 30th. It's going to be the OIT Cloud Connections Summit. We're going to be sending out and talking about surveys. We're going to be sending out surveys this week or very early next week, specifically asking what sessions do you guys want? We're going to have we already decided we're going to have management and technical and sales and marketing tracks. So you can, we don't want to monopolize your entire day. If you can join the whole day, that's fantastic, but we want to dial into what's important to you. But this is going to be 100% participant driven. So, we love that interactive stuff. And I guess I'll use the opportunity. I'm not an active DJ. I used to be, I used to do a lot of events, public speaking events and stuff like that. Surprise, surprise. And I have multiple sets of gear over here and my equipment. But I do a lot. I do this stuff just for fun, and I'm a big audiophile fan, so I have microphones and cameras all over the place. So it's rare to see the same camera angle with me from one webinar to the next. So Jonathan, who won the gift card?
It was Corey. It was your boy.
Corey Everly,
Corey Everly.
I love it.
Congratulations, sir. And thanks for everybody for participating in that.
I just have a second real quick. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely, Tom.
All right, great. Just want to thank everyone. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to our next one with Kevin Clune. He's the owner of MSP Growth Hacks. We previously did a webinar with him, and we're going to get into a lot of things you can do, email cadences, that sort of thing, communications. And want to thank everyone for joining today. And I'm also available to do some MSP consulting. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or Jonathan will also send my contact information out.
For those asking about a private DJ session, we are going to have 2 after-hour entertainment events with live entertainment. We actually booked some people for our conference. If you register, I will promise at least a 5-minute mix session live for those that have joined the conference. So sign up. The link is in the chat.
And Joe, thank you for being such a courteous second place runner-up. We'll see if we can get you a consolation prize too. You had it there until the last 10 minutes. Unbelievable finish by Corey.
It was an upset. It was absolutely an upset. I loved it. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. This has been absolutely spectacular. Definitely looking forward to the next session you guys host. And thanks for having Sean and me.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Lisa, for coming on too. This is great. Thanks everybody for joining. One last note. We recorded this. And so what's cool about Crowdcast is actually we're going to end the event. The recording will be up in like a couple of minutes. So you can actually use the same link that you used to get in here to watch the recording. But we'll also follow up with an email that's got another link to the recording and to the agenda doc. So thanks, everybody, again. Happy Thursday. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. You guys too. Take care.